As the New Year celebrations begin, I would like to address all Argentines to extend my greetings and share a brief message. Tomorrow will mark the first 3 weeks since we assumed the leadership of the nation. Since December 10th, we have designed a shock stabilization plan. We have reduced the size of the state. We have implemented a new doctrine of public order, and we have promoted more than 500 reforms, among many other initiatives. Some have been surprised by the number and speed of the measures we have adopted. The truth is that they were necessary to try to mitigate the effects of the worst legacy in history. These are the first steps to turn the page and leave behind, once and for all, a caste-based economic model, which has plunged Argentines into misery for more than 100 years. The radical change, with respect to this impoverishing model, is a non-negotiable commitment that I made to all Argentines. However, the inherited problem is too deep. Because we are talking about an economy with a 15-point consolidated deficit, with a monetary issue of 20 points of GDP in the last 4 years, with artificially lowered prices in energy and transport by up to 1/5 of their real value, with a central bank without reserves and with an inflation that, in recent weeks, reached 1.2% daily, which, annualized, would imply around 7,500% annually, a legacy that condemns half of Argentines to poverty and, in particular, affects 7 out of 10 of our children. This is an initial situation worse than that of 2001, 2002, which was the worst crisis in our history. Therefore, we are facing a national emergency situation, which requires us to act immediately and forcefully with the greatest number of possible instruments, which far exceed the resources we have used in these first weeks. I want to be clear on this. Unless we do what is necessary, now, we are heading for an economic catastrophe of a magnitude unknown to any living Argentine. For this reason, we have sent to the National Congress a bill that may well determine the fate of our country, with the conviction that it will be approved in the coming weeks. We have called it bases and starting points for the freedom of Argentines, in allusion to Juan Bautista Alberti, the intellectual author of our first constitution. With his ideas as a beacon, the country project was carried out that, between the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, made Argentina the richest country in the world. This law gives the executive the necessary powers to act in the face of this emergency situation and avoid economic catastrophe, in addition to promoting deep reforms in trade, tax, production, social, security, education and all levels of government. The spirit of the law is to return to being a free country, with a limited state, which acts in defense of the life, liberty and property of Argentines, a country where public order is respected, a country where politics does not serve the citizenry, but is at its service, where everyone is free to work, produce, employ, trade, import and export as they see fit, not as a bureaucrat dictates from a government office. Who can prefer the devastated country of today over the prosperous country that we propose? In a few weeks, when the moment of truth arrives, the deputies and senators of the nation will be faced with 2 options. They can reject the law and continue with the model that has impoverished us for 100 years, or they can approve the law to make a profound change and embrace, once again, the ideas of freedom. Over the last year I have established a code of honor with Argentines. It is better to tell an uncomfortable truth than a comfortable lie. And even though I did not promise them a path full of roses, but one of effort and sacrifice, the great majority of Argentines responded with their vote. I will insist on a hard truth that I have said many times. Due to the irresponsible decisions taken by the last governments, next year will be hard for all of us. But the other certainty I have is that, if our program is obstructed by the same people as always, who do not want anything to change, we will not have the instruments to prevent this crisis from becoming a social catastrophe of biblical proportions. Avoiding this catastrophic future, to which they led us, depends on everyone. It depends on us, in the government, to work every day to protect Argentines as we have been doing. It depends on the union and social leaders, who will face the historic responsibility of choosing between the general welfare or the preservation of their personal interests. It depends on the deputies and senators, who will be debating in Congress, and who will have to choose whether they want to be part of the solution or whether they want to continue being part of the problem. And it also depends on good Argentines, who see that we are facing a turning point in our history and have faith that, as a nation, we will be able to move forward. That is why I invite all good Argentines to demand that their representatives approve this law, because the country needs it. If all the political, social, union and business actors in the country understand the historic moment we are living and support our program, I am sure that there will be light at the end of the road. In essence, our reforms would imply levels of economic freedom that, in a period of 45 years, would allow us to aspire to multiply our GDP per capita by 10 times, reaching levels similar to those of Ireland, which today is 50% above that of the United States. To conclude, I would like to wish all Argentines a Happy New Year once again. I hope that you can spend it in the company of your family and loved ones. This may be the year in which we turn around a century of failures. This may be the year in which we leave behind the collectivist model, which made us poor, and embrace, once again, the model of freedom, which made us the richest country in the world. My wish, for this new year, is that the political leadership abandons its ideological blinders and personal interests and rises to the occasion in order to be able to quickly advance the changes that the country needs. Finally, may God bless the Argentines and may the force of heaven be with us. Thank you very much.